You're watching What She Said on YouTube.
Welcome back. We are in studio, Christine Bentley and Kate Wheeler with you today. And joining us now is David Fetter. He's a therapist with 30 years experience. That's even more than us.
Yeah.
Getting on.
Not me.
Oh, sorry. Now, recently, you've been concentrating on patients recovering from infidelity, most recently those suffering from sex addiction. You're based in Toronto, but your patients you see from all over the world, often through Skype, right?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
So, last time you were here, we touched on the epidemic, you called it, that you see coming with the effects of pornography on our youth. I think the thing that you said that struck me most, this was aimed more at couples, was this is the first time in history where you can be lying in bed next to someone who's cheating on you.
That's right.
Yeah. So tell us what you see ahead.
Well, it's quite concerning in terms of what the future is going to bring, because what we're talking about, or what we're first of all noticing, is with the proliferation of the internet and the availability of pornography on the internet and younger people accessing it. What I anticipate is that more and more people are going to have more difficulty having good connections with people.
So how does that emotionally and mentally affect, say, a teenage boy who's just learning about how to have an intimate relationship?
Well, one of the greatest concerns I have is that what that young person is learning is they're not learning what healthy sexuality is. They're not learning about what a good connection with another person is. And as a result, as they get older, the ability to connect with another person is going to be compromised.
So, David, are you saying that it has desensitized youth to the good parts of sex, or has it changed certain basic character traits like compassion and narcissism? And because you did talk about that.
What is a concern, of course, is that the message that I believe people will get from exposure on the internet is that whatever they want, they can go get. And as a result, or in contrast, when I think about my own development and people of my generation, and perhaps the same for yourselves as well, is that intimacy was part of a relationship. And if we ended up being physically intimate with one another, it was because of it being part of a relationship where there was mutuality, where there was respect as a very big part of it. Now, when people are exposed to the internet and they're seeing things, I don't believe that unless that is balanced with what good, healthy intimacy, good, healthy sex is, that people are learning how to relate to others. So people will, I believe, compromise compassion, intimacy, and there will be an increase in narcissism, because that's what it is.
You, in fact, have said that there are studies that show that.
Mm-hmm.
And what is the percentage of the drop in compassion and the rise in narcissism?
The statistic that I have is 30%.
And that is alarming to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and how is that going to be arrested, or how is that going to be turned around? And I think that if people are accessing the internet, and learning about relationships that way, then my prediction personally is that it will increase.
Does it affect girls as much as it affects boys? Because, I mean, if girls are also looking at what women in porn are willing to do and think it's normal, and what kind of effect does it have on their, say, self-esteem?
Well, I think that's an excellent point, and I think overall what we're seeing as adults in sex addiction is that it's not only a problem of males. So girls are also, getting the wrong message, if you will. As far as self-esteem, again, I would say that your point is well taken, that if it becomes the new norm,
Right.
and it becomes what, you might say what is expected, what a person has to do in order to have, in quotation marks, affection, or be part of a relationship, or not be part of a relationship, and that's definitely a huge concern.
Well, there are discussions going on among teenagers about things that I might not have got involved into even in my marriage until I was in my early 40s. I mean, and yet this is sort of, this is considered something we were interested in doing to spice up our marriage, is something that is now considered like, if you don't do this, I'm not going to be your boyfriend. So, I mean, how do we counter that?
Well, first of all, I think that parents should not underestimate the influence they could have.
That's good to know.
On their children. I feel that in conversations that I have with people, often the default answer is, well, what can I do?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a long-term. I don't think that a long-term issue. I don't think that there is any short-term solutions. What I think parents need to do is, first of all, be mindful of what their youth are involved in. So I talk about, with people, I talk about something that I developed called VIEW. And it's an acronym, for, first of all, the V is good family values. Too often, what I find is that people in their families at home are spending time separate from one another. They're watching television, or they're involved on their smartphone, or they're involved in their iPad, and they're not really connected to one another. They're in their own little worlds. Many families don't even eat together anymore. So I encourage people to go back to encouraging and modeling good family values. The U stands for understanding, and I think parents really need to become much more aware and understand better what their youth is involved in, what sites they're visiting on the web, what are the conversations youth are having between each other.
But what teenager is going to discuss that with their parents?
No, I'm not saying that, that's a very good point. It's an excellent point. And I think that it's not so much finding it out from your youth, it's finding it out from other sources. So one of the things that I'm developing, for example, is if you want to call it a course that parents can attend where they could learn about these things. And the E is ongoing education. Because the internet is changing so rapidly on a steady basis, we need to be educated on an ongoing basis. So I think we need to do that. I think we also need to model what a good relationship is. So, parents holding hands, hugging, being affectionate with one another, and letting their youth know that it's okay to be that way, and also what it is that a good relationship is made up of. And having conversations as much as possible about what is healthy, what is intimacy, what is a relationship all about.
Well, we're going to have to go to a break, but when we come back, I'd like to talk to you about the influence of the peer group, which is so strong, and I don't know how parents combat that. I don't know how you compete with that if you find out that your child is involved in something that you don't think is healthy.
Yeah, and I want to find out about what kind of guy goes to these real social dynamics seminars.
Yeah.
And what they think they're going to learn.
But we'll be back. This is What She Said on Canada Talk Sirius XM. Stay with us. And welcome back. I'm Christine Bentley in studio with Kate Wheeler, and joining us is therapist David Fetter, and we are talking about youth and the effect that the prevalence of porn, the availability of porn, is having on their future relationships and also on their sex lives, David. Mm-hmm. What effect is it having on their sex lives?
Well, over the long haul.
Yeah.
What we're seeing, and certainly in people who become sex addicts, but I think that this would be relevant, is that people are losing the ability to develop or form human connection.
Mm-hmm.
people are having fewer relationships outside of cyberspace, and reality is being replaced by digital. So people are more lonely, more isolated, in my opinion.
Right. Now, we were talking about parents modeling great behavior and that would help, and trying to find out what their children are up to.
Well, hang on a second. I think I may have traumatized Sophie because John was hugging me in the kitchen when she was about 4 or 5, hugging and kissing me, and she stood there with her hands on her hips and said, "Every time I turn around, you're doing it behind my back." I said, "Well, would you rather we were arguing than hugging and kissing?" "It's just embarrassing. Get a room." She hasn't lived that one down yet, obviously.
Yeah,
but that's what you mean. Like parents, like literally, you said kissing and holding hands, which is why I was laughing before.
Well, I think that there's of course limits.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm not talking about the extended, prolonged, amorous kiss, but just to be affectionate with one another.
Yeah,
Mhm.
affection, that it's normal and healthy and whatever. But you're saying that parents can have an effect. And I'm wondering, the peer group for a teenager or for somebody in their young 20s is so strong. How do we combat that as parents? I mean, how do you, Kate was saying earlier, I mean, how do you really find out what they're doing? They're not going to talk to you about it.
That's
And
right.
how do you then, even if you did find out, what do you do? How do you combat that?
Parenting is is not something that is just happening when there's a problem.
But what do you do if you find out you have a problem? Then what?
Well, I encourage, and I absolutely encourage parents to form solid relationships from the beginning. When there's a problem and you're involved with a peer group, you use the word combat. I don't think we could combat a peer group. I think that what we may have to do is just be available, talk to our youth when we have the opportunity, and perhaps even when they allow it, and hang in there over the long term. When our youth is available and wants to talk, we're there for it, but we're not going to fight with them. We're going to give them a different opinion. And I think that the way I look at it is that when we're talking about an adolescent, it's a real balance between telling an adolescent what to do and providing them with information that would give them the opportunity to make a good decision. So that is what I'm talking about. It's being knowledgeable, being able to provide the information to our youth, giving the other side of whatever the issue is, and then giving them a chance to make an informed decision. If the only input is the peer group, then we're in trouble.
But if they're already down that path, is there a way of correcting that? When you're looking at your child and realizing that maybe their relationships for the future will be compromised, and their whole quality of life thus might be compromised, and you want to help them, would therapy help them? Can that be changed if they're in their late teens and they've already...
It can be changed, but again, unless a youth wants to be in therapy, unless they recognize that there is a problem, you're not going to get anywhere. I actually recently had a situation where parents were bringing their adolescent son to my office, and we really didn't get anywhere because he didn't want to be there. And it was, it really, I would say very little, if anything, was accomplished. So, certainly the adolescent has to buy in, and if they do, then great things can happen. But if they don't, therapy's not going to be helpful.
Is this inability then to care about how someone else feels? Would you say that is the catalyst for this whole pickup artist movement and the people that are going out there? I mean, what kind of man in his 20s needs to go and learn how to do this? My husband has an interesting term for them, but I don't think I can say it on a bunch of losers sitting around pulling certain things. That's all they're doing. They have no idea how to relate to women. So is this why you see the rise?
The rise
In the pickup artist community, in these seminars, these ongoing?
My feeling personally is that it relates to well, not necessarily the inability, but not wanting or not being interested in having a relationship, and clearly having one goal in mind.
Conquest.
Conquest in the form of sex, and so the person who I feel would be attracted to that kind of lifestyle is a person who is very much into themselves, not someone who really has any interest in having any mutuality within a relationship. So it's really, again, very much into themselves, wanting something and feeling as though they can just go get it. Someone who has little compassion or concern or caring for the other individual, and then justifying it to themselves.
But David, you're describing what you have just said. I mean, maybe this is the end, the end of the pendulum, but describing what is happening to youth through being, through the porn that they're exposed to, and this modeling of a different kind of behavior in terms of what a relationship should be. So is this something, this is attractive to them? So this industry then would be growing.
I think it is growing. I think that's what we're seeing, isn't it? I mean, I think that just what the petition that you have out there right now, it's it's there because this is something in society that is gaining some momentum. But not everybody, and I don't want to give the impression that everybody who is exposed to pornography at a young age is going to become a pickup artist. I don't think there's a direct relationship. I think that may be one outcome, but there's many other outcomes as well.
Well, we on that particular front, Kate, there's been a new petition.
Oh, Iceland has just started. I was trying to read it, and let me say my Icelandic is not very good. But the headline is in English. It's Keep Julian Blank Out of Iceland. Now, I mean, he was interviewed by CNN. He said that he was reevaluating what he put out, and he said that it was very bad. The videos of him and photographs of him choking and pushing women's head into males' crotches was a poor attempt at humor, and that it had been taken out of context. Now, the interviewer said, no, there's no mistake here. There's no mistake. This is what you were doing. Like, look at these pictures. Like, you put these out there. You put that chart up, which was, he adapted a chart, a pie chart of things that women who are in abusive relationships should look out for, and used it as a cheat sheet of what you should do to control a woman. So, I mean, they called him on it. The interviewer was a man and was good, but he said, he came short of saying that. He said he's apologizing if he offended anybody. He didn't actually apologize for his actions. And he did say that he would reevaluate it, but they said that they're maybe not doing live seminars until, the heat is off, until people have gone away, moved on to the next big thing.
Yeah.
But they are doing them online, webinars.
Yeah, well, the thing is, too, that at one point, Kate, he made a comment, which I think you brought up, about losing his income. They make a lot of money. They're charging people, $2,000-$3,000 to come to these seminars. I mean, they're making...
Yeah, there's got to be somewhere, David the Fetter, that $3,000 can be better spent on learning how to, meet and impress a woman.
If that's what you want to do, if you want to meet and impress and have a relationship. Mm-hmm. My impression, and it's not an area that I do a lot of work in, but certainly my impression is that that's not the ultimate goal. Reading some of the material on the internet, I read a quote that I hope I don't butcher it, but it's something like, "Respect is a hindrance if your goal is exploitation." Mm. And I think it captures it right there. I don't know that people who want relationships are finding their way to those kind of seminars.
Well, he said that he has been invited to weddings, that people have met their spouses through his training technique. He didn't give any specifics, but
That's what he says.
yeah, that's what he says.
Yeah.
He says that it does work, and that it was a poor attempt at humor. But I mean, frankly, when I was going through the things to write the petition, I was just appalled. I mean, really, we used to joke in journalists saying, "Oh, I wonder if that person's shocked and appalled," and I was shocked and appalled. I could not believe the things and the way that they want to emotionally discombobulate and manipulate women by fast talking and distracting. They're like stalker techniques that
Exactly.
are so unnerving.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult to really understand. I'd like, it'd be fantastic to have him explain where the humor is
Yeah.
and how it was a mistake. It's really hard to imagine.
It is hard to imagine. So, so have a conversation with your teenagers. See if you can get them into a conversation. Maybe even, but start early, right? Talk about sex and respect and relationships early.
Yeah, I think that it's part of growing up.
Mhm.
It's part of the development. It's one of the developmental stages of that we all go through. So let's face it. I mean, in our society today, parents are becoming more and more disconnected from their teens. There are multiple influences in society that take our teens away from us, and it's hard work, and it needs to be a priority. And as you say, happens over the long haul.
Dignity, empathy, and self-respect.
Sounds good.
Click the channel subscribe button for full-length interviews and more from What She Said here on YouTube.